Timcast IRL will be live in Miami with Patrick Bet David, Donald Trump Jr., Matt Gaetz, and Luke Rudkowski. Join us there. Get your tickets by clicking the link in the description below or by going to timcast.com. Last night, we had social breakdown in Philadelphia. Philly police arrest 52 people in connection with rioting and looting. So basically, last night, you had absolute insanity in Philadelphia. Over 100 people running around, smashing windows, breaking into stores and liquor stores, just stealing whatever they wanted. And they didn't care. They didn't care about the police. They didn't care about what was going on, and the police can't stop it.
There was an influencer named Meatball.
Yeah, live
who
streaming.
got arrested for stealing bread from an Apple store.
Bread?
Bread?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Just to, they're just trying to get by. Yeah. Just trying to get food to
That's right.
keep surviving.
Right, because that's what AOC said, right? That they're just struggling to get by. So, they
went bad for Meatball right
I was
now.
picturing just meatballs and a nice juicy hoagie roll, and I kind of lost track of the story for a second. But do they feed their families with Dior handbags? I don't know.
Well, what they did was when they stole all the Apple products and went outside, the alarms on the devices went off saying you're being tracked, so they smashed them all.
Yeah.
But this is my point that I made earlier. When I talk about social breakdown, let me spell it out for you. If police are not held accountable when they commit crimes, then you get this. What do you think the political equivalent of this would be? So I'll give you an example. I don't believe that all cops are bad. I think that's silly. The ACAB people are nuts. I think police serve a purpose, but the problem is when we get instances of police impropriety, we are not likely to get accountability. I can speak to an example when the example I often give of when I filmed the police wrongly arrest a photographer in New York who then filed a false police report and additionally lied under oath to try and convict a guy who had done nothing wrong. The police claimed that he was standing in the middle of the street blocking traffic when he was on the sidewalk, and I filmed him on the sidewalk when they arrested him. Cops lied. They just didn't want a photographer taking pictures of what they were doing. There was never any accountability for those cops. Now, you get a piece of information like that. It's a problem. How do we fix it? I don't know. There's got to be a solution to it. The leftists propagandize that, amplify it, and then lie about other instances because this seed means you get a George Floyd, you get an Ahmaud Arbery, no one will trust the police. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of the cops or not. The point is this. The more stories you get and the more videos you get of police impropriety going unpunished, you'll end up with people like this saying, the police have no jurisdiction over me. Why would I listen to these gang members? And this is what I've explained before. If a gang member shows up to your house and says, I'm the boss now, do as I say, you'd be like, get out of here. If a cop shows up, now you're like, okay, I got to call my lawyer. They have a warrant. Now I got to listen. Yeah. What's happening now is police are being viewed no different than another gang. Now think about the political equivalent to this. If politicians in Congress can insider trade with no accountability, we know they're corrupt. We know they're taking these dirty deals. We know they're playing dirty games in politics. We now know that Democrats are going after Trump supporters. They're going after the president himself. They're dissolving his businesses. What's the political equivalent? You're going to get factions in combination with this and the politics. What you will see is regular guys in their neighborhoods starting neighborhood watches. Yeah. They're going to say the police won't stop the crime. The police can't be held accountable. The government is going to arrest us. We have to protect ourselves. What happens when you get 56 different factions all throughout the United States in their small town areas asserting their jurisdiction outside of the county, the state, or the federal government?
A birth of a nation.
It's the way you're describing it is to the extreme extent, but at the smaller level, when people are just starting these community watches and they're maybe just arming themselves and they're just making sure that if you exercise your Second Amendment rights, that people are going to be more polite around you. That's all good stuff. I don't want to sound like I'm just trying to make lemonade out of lemons here, and I'd like to avoid civil war if we can do that. But if people have a little bit more situational awareness now, and people don't spend their time hanging around downtown Philly because it's gone up in flames, and people start exercising their rights and working with their neighbors to say, hey, we're going to make sure this is a
small town.
Try that in a small town, man. Yeah, look, these guys could be canceled, right? But I don't know. I like a little accountability.
So here's what I imagine. These people are smashing businesses and flash mobbing all over the place. It's been happening nonstop for several years now, and it's getting worse. This is the worst we've seen. Not only are they targeting stores, now you have 100 people running through the shopping district and smashing up a bunch of stores. And the police are only able to stop around half. You're going to get people who say, try that in a small town. Try that in a small town. What's the implication there? The implication is that we in a small town will defend ourselves.
We will shoot you. That's the subtext.
And here's what happens. There will be people in a neighborhood, in a suburb, in a blue state that will have guns. The police will show up and say, we are coming to take your guns away. And those people are going to be like, F you, no, you're not, because you don't protect us from the flash mobs and the roving gangs that are shooting at us and killing people. And the police are going to say, shut your mouth and get on your knees. Welcome to a modern Lexington and Concord.
I don't think that it'll come to that, though. It seems like maybe because we got the internet, maybe because we're American, we've got this culture that the cops are kind of like pissed off at this. Like local cops don't want to go harass people and take their weapons. They don't want to create that kind of animosity.
Meaningless.
I don't agree. I think if a cop gets an order to go take some guy's gun, they're going to be like, no, you do it, dude. I'm not going to step in front of that guy's Second Amendment right.
I got one for you, Ian. If the police were ordered to arrest local community members in their own city because foreign nationals had entered, do you think the cops would be like, I'm not going to arrest the guy who lives here because you want me to protect a foreign citizen? Do you think they do it?
I don't know.
They did it already. The police in Staten Island arrested the local residents who were protesting their government shipping in non-citizens and paying them. The police arrested the people who lived there. How about the guy who was in his own home when BLM showed up protesting, and the man in his own home, knowing these guys had set fire to another house recently, brandished a weapon. The cops went into his house and arrested him.
But you know the sad part of all of this? I mean, that's all pretty sad. I think people will just probably go along with it. I like to think they're going to say, no, I'm going to stand up for my rights and my way of life. But man, if even Staten Island can be pushed around, those are like the most obnoxious, sort of stubborn people.
We talked about this last night. The American Revolution took 20 years. It started in 1764 and it went until 1783. The revolution started 1 year and a month before the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And the Battle of Lexington and Concord, which wasn't really a battle, it was a bunch of farmers shooting at effectively police. The reason why that marked the start, the shot heard around the world, was because before this, everyone said exactly what you were just saying right now. No one's going to stand up for themselves. No one's ever going to get into conflict with the regulars. No one will stand against the crown until one day when the crown said, we're coming to take your guns. And they went to the militias in the rural parts of Massachusetts, and they said, over our cold, dead hands. Someone started shooting. We don't know who. I think it's fair to assume it was the Americans who opened fire on the crown first. I think it was
some drunk militia man like, yeah.
I don't think that was it at all. I think 300 regulars marching down the street pointing muskets at you, and one guy,
somebody didn't have trigger discipline, though.
Were just like, I'm done with it. This is my fear. But the problem is, I don't see an off ramp. As Phil Labonte describes it, because all we ask for is like, guys, it's really simple. Police, you can't arrest a local resident because they're upset you shipped in non-citizens to their neighborhood and are giving them their tax dollars. Let me make this clear for everybody. Non-citizen illegally enters the country, gets a free bus ride or plane ride to your hometown, to Staten Island, to where you live. Your tax dollars to New York City are now paying these non-citizens who also have police protections from you and special protected status that AOC has fought for. They're working underground jobs and they're not paying taxes. Yo, I'm sorry, man. I'm deeply concerned about things like that. I'm deeply concerned about the fact that Colorado has no abortion restrictions and Oklahoma has total abortion restrictions. Hyperpolarization, but most importantly, the immigration thing I think is the scariest thing.
Yeah. But think about how effective it's been. We're paying attention to it now in particular because you see the crazy stuff in Staten Island, or you see Lampedusa gets overrun with more migrants than citizens of the island. But this has been going on now for over about 65 years. The movement of people into the United States over the last 65 years is the largest movement of people ever in recorded history. So, the hour is a bit late on this issue, and there's this bizarre fact that no matter which party you elect, you just get more migration.
The hour is a bit late, but all that means to me is that it'll be worse than it should have been. If 50 years ago, or whenever it started, people just said, hey, we're stopping this right now, there's no conflict. You just sign the paperwork and things are done. Maybe a little heated arguments in Congress. But now we're talking about a million plus people per year. Now we're at the point where the people who hey, look, man, all that is required for evil to triumph is good men do nothing. Good people do nothing, right? And so the people of Staten Island for
But
too
mostly
long,
men, I think we know.
right? Sure, but the people of Staten Island did nothing. These are people who pay taxes and support a machine and say, leave me out of it. I don't care about politics. I don't think about that stuff.
That's the one Republican borough.
There you go. And then one day they wake up and there's a bus being shipped in of non-citizens and they're saying, hey, your tax dollars, everyone's got to pitch in for these guys. And they're like, wait, these 20-year-old men from El Salvador and, sorry, not El Salvador. El Salvador's doing really well and everyone's moving back. But from Guatemala and Honduras, no, seriously though, but from Honduras and Guatemala who are fleeing here, then when they come out and they say, hey, get this bus out of here, the cop looks them straight in the eyes with a Joker grin and says, I will crack you over the skull if you stop what we are doing to your home. And then what happens? The cops beat and arrest the people who live there to protect the non-citizens. Yeah. This is unsustainable.
It's insane. I guess, though, that's my point, is that even the Republican borough with the tough Italian Staten Islanders, most people haven't even heard this story. Nothing really happened. And so, look, maybe something...
Right. But
you're saying just wait and it'll...
Well, so if the revolutionary period started in 1764... and it took 11 years to get to the point where people were opening fire on regulars, we could be 8 years away. Or if the Strauss-House generational theory is correct, then we're looking at maybe in 4 years, we're in deep trenches of serious conflict in our urban centers.
In the United States?
Yeah.
What about the world? Do you think, I can't imagine that something would happen in the United States and not the rest of the world.
I agree.
It would be a global firestorm if something like that were to go down.
If the U.S. destabilizes in this way, China immediately takes Taiwan.
And try and take the Western United States. It would be like land grab central. Like if the Civil War or the Revolutionary War was a French opportunity to take control of the Atlantic Ocean by demolishing the British. And they did that. So
when you make a good point too, Ian, which is you've already got this difficult situation we're in where the West, led by America, is decaying and China is largely on the rise. So you're seeing what people are calling the inevitability of a bipolar world already, so cracking U.S. hegemony for the first time since the Cold War is over, and frankly even a little earlier than that. So when you have a shift in the world order to that degree, it almost always ends in war, in a world war. So is it possible that just as we're on the brink of our civil war and pulling out our muskets to shoot our cousins, that we find ourselves in a global conflict already where the stakes are even higher?
Yep. Does Russia advance knowing that the United States is completely destabilized? And if Russia does do a larger push, say with nuclear artillery, and I use that as an example because I'm sure they have other weapons and other techniques that could be divisive and powerful, but a nuclear weapon creates a hyperpolarization in the United States. One side, the left, saying, this is our casus belli. We must stop Vladimir Putin. And the right would say, this is your fault. We should not have been in Ukraine in the first place. You caused this. We need to extract and remove ourselves now. And then what happens? Do you think after a nuclear artillery is dropped in Ukraine that this would extreme political instability already in this country? They're not going to have the public support to warrant sending more troops, more dollars, more resources to Ukraine. We now know, thanks to CBS, surprisingly, that the U.S. is not only funding the war, we're funding the small businesses of Ukraine.
Right.
When the federal government shuts down, Ukraine will still, the U.S. will be paying the salaries of Ukrainian citizens while not paying veterans benefits. Mm-hmm. Now, I do think Matt Gaetz said they did get a measure through a single subject spending bill to guarantee veterans benefits.
They're duking it out right now. I mean, as we're speaking, they're on the floor of the House right now duking this out. But the thing I love about this government shutdown, look, we now shut down the government every year, so I don't even pay attention to it really. This is just this year's shutdown. And the thing I love about it is that it's going to show you who really runs your government. Because just as you say, we're going to shut down all non-essential services, but those paychecks to the shop owner in Ukraine, they're going to keep going. It doesn't matter what the people in Congress say.
I think for most, I think most people in this country don't care. You tell them that tax dollars are going to Ukraine, they're going to be like, I can't see it, right? I'll tell you something funny. You ever play poker? You play Texas Hold'em? Yeah. So are familiar with table rake versus time rake?
No.
Okay, go to a casino, and most of them do what's called a table rake, where that's every hand, everyone gets dealt two cards. Everybody puts money in, and then you can increase the wager. And if you don't want to pay it, you fold. The casinos typically take $5 to $7 out of the pot as what's called a table rake. So every hand that's dealt, they will pull 10% up to $6 and put it in their bin. Yeah. That means if they're doing 20 to 30 hands per hour times $6, some card clubs do what's called a table rake, which is, a time rake. Yeah. Every half an hour, everyone pays $7. If you do what's called time rake, you physically pick the money up and hand it to the dealer, and you're like, that sucked. If you do a table rake, you never know because the dealer's pushing you your winnings and pulling from it without you realizing. And people beg for table rake, which takes substantially more money away from them. The reason I bring this up is when it comes to us funding Ukraine, so long as the American people can't see the money extracted from their accounts, they won't care.
Right.
As soon as if Joe Biden said we're gonna debit your bank account $5 to fund the war in Ukraine, there would be a riot.
It'd be over in 1 second.
Done.
But what they're really going to do is it's all funny money, and we're so incredibly in debt at this point that people don't even pay attention to it. And even if the Congress doesn't approve more appropriations for Ukraine, which is possible, what's going to happen is they're going to just discover another $6 billion. Remember, this was a few months ago, they discovered $6 billion they meant to send to Ukraine. And that wasn't really true. That's not really what happened. What really happened is the political powers who were running our war in Ukraine, our side of the war in Ukraine, they decided that Ukraine needed some more stuff. So they retroactively changed the price of the weapons that we sent over and said, no, actually, look, we appropriated this amount of money. And it turns out those weapons, they were cheaper than we thought. We figured it out, though. And anyway, so we're going to send them more. But it's okay. We're not spending any more money because we just retroactively changed the prices. Okay, great.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.